Let's lead things off with number 40. We heard people going crazy for Stamkos. People go crazy for this next guy, Matthew Tkachuk, for different reasons. Since coming into the NHL, nobody's drawn more penalties than Matthew Tkachuk. Yeah. He's a gamer. I'd want him on my team any day of the week. Why do you like him?
That's what makes him such a unique player, because he is that rare blend of a high-skilled player, but also with the mentality of an agitator, a disruptor, a physical player. And listen, I've known Matthew Tkachuk since literally he was 2 years old. And we've been on the ice together when he was just a toddler when I played with his dad, Keith. And he's always loved the game of hockey. But most guys who have the kind of skill and produce the kind of points that he does don't want to be involved all the time the way he is. And it takes a lot of emotion, it takes a lot of energy, and it takes a physical price to want to get under the skin of the other team's best players every single night. And the fact that he's willing to do that drags the rest of his team into the game. That makes him added value for players of his caliber. And then you mix in how good he is in and around the net. And he gets almost all of his action, almost all of his goals, not surprisingly, in those greasy areas, in that high danger area right in front. And you watch this, EJ, time and again, everything he does, quick stick, good hands, in and around that net.
He's got a lot of skill. He combines that skill and that physical play, and that makes for a really unique and special player, and a guy that can drive winning, which is not usual off the wing.
No, wingers definitely need to get facilitated, but he might be a better assist guy than goal scorer, but that mentality that he goes to where the action is, always with the puck, without the puck, offensive zone, defensive zone, and when he's at his very best, which is really pretty often, he's very consistent in the approach that he brings. It's because, you know, he gets there and he's willing to battle to get there, to pay the price to get there. And then once he's there, sneaky good hands in and around the net. And, you know, we just don't have a lot of guys in the game today that play as physically as he does and can produce the points.
Quick Matthew Tkachuk story. The first time I met him was at the U.S. Prospects game prior to his draft year. And I spoke with him that morning before that game. And I said, you know, what kind of player are you? And he said, for me, I want to make the guys on my line better every time I'm on the ice. And then I watched the game, and that's where they throw a lot of guys together. And he did just that.
Yeah.
And so he's about winning. He's about making those around him better. People who play against him, I'm sure they don't love him because he can get under your skin, but he is true to what he wants to be, which he wants to make those guys that are playing with him better, and he does.
All right, that's number 40 at 39 each. Steven Stamkos proving to us that it's quality over quantity in the Stanley Cup final. Just 2 minutes and 47 seconds, but a massive goal in Game 3. This guy can score with the best of them.
Yeah, he's a tricky one to rank, I think, because of the injury issues that he's had. He's missed so much time. Obviously, a first overall pick going back to 2008, and a great goal scorer. There's no question about that. And still a great shot, as we saw in that short window during the Stanley Cup final against the Dallas Stars. But because of the injuries, it has slowed his game. He is not quite the same player because of those injuries, particularly in a more 5-on-5 game. Yeah. But still he can make really good passes on the power play through the box, through the diamond, as the different penalty killing systems. He can set guys up, and he can certainly rip it still.
Well, one of the best shooters the game's ever seen. Yeah. I mean, that's why he might go to the Hall of Fame. I mean, his numbers are good enough if he can just stay healthy for another couple hundred games, and hopefully that is the case coming off another injury-plagued season. But he won the Stanley Cup. We know the work he puts in to be as good as he can be. And offensively, with a puck on his stick, he is gifted. He is one of the best we've ever seen. So we hope that he can get his body in the right shape so that he can just continue to get to the spots where he needs to get the goals. Because once the puck's on his stick, once it's in the offensive zone, he still is as dangerous as anyone. He can shoot it past goalies with relative ease.
More than a point-a-game player throughout his career. So it's a shame. It's a shame that the injuries have really taken their toll, and he's not the same player he was. No. Still a really good player, but not quite the same player he was.
422 career goals.
He gets to 500. He's going to get to 500.
Certainly. He stays healthy. He's one of the best in the game. Teach you how to Dougie. We had to be taught how to learn this kid's name. Elias Pettersson at number 38. When he first came into the league, Elias Pettersson, Peterson. We know Elias Pettersson now, and this guy is one of the best we have in the game.
I'm just going to call him really good.
Yeah,
and
that works.
For me, he'd be much higher on my list because he's a special player, and we're going to take a look at some of the things that he does. And I would start with just it's like he's so patient, this guy. I mean, he's going to come in here, and he's going to be Vasilevsky, maybe the best goalie in hockey right now. And, I mean, he makes it look way too easy. I mean, it's not that easy to make a good goalie like Vasilevsky kind of look average. And he does it right there. And, you know, we're going to look and see. This is a tough one, too, Johnny, right? The puck comes inside him a little bit. He gets his leg down. He changes the hand position. Just very casual.
It is. He plays fast, but he's never in a rush. And he just, his mind and his patience and his poise lets him make decisions and plays in tight spaces. And I think when you watch him enough, and we made comment on it, like, he is a slight guy. You're a lot of, like, he's a thin, wiry, and yet he slithers his way around to get in the spots. And then once the puck's on a stick, EJ, I think this does really separate him from the second he got in the NHL, is his ability to shoot it.
Yeah, and I love the one-timer that he has. It is unique. I mean, we see a lot of guys with great one-timers. Obviously, Alex Ovechkin has made a living on it. But when you watch this guy, there's something different about it. It's the smoothness of the swing.
I'll tell you what it is that when you think of Ovechkin's one-timer, when he hits the ice, he's hitting the ice probably 3 inches behind the puck, and you see a massive torque into the shaft of his stick. When Pettersson hits it, he picks it clean. He does not hit the ice as far behind the puck as a Stamkos or as an Ovechkin, those big Shea Weber, the big heavy guys. He picks them clean, and so he uses the technology of his blade more than his shaft, but it looks more effortless, and it pops off his blade as opposed to explodes out of the curve of his stick. And it allows it to get to the net almost quicker. It might not be miles per hour heavier, but it gets there quicker, and he certainly can pick his corner.
And yeah, he's really accurate. And, you know, early in the season, I got to see the Canucks and Devils play in New Jersey, and I was sitting in that corner where he'd be set up for that one-timer. And in that particular game, the Canucks had a couple of long power play opportunities, and just to watch him do it over and over again. I've been watching hockey games for a long time. I've never seen someone with that kind of smoothness and the effortlessness of the way he takes that one-timer. It's special.
Yeah. Special kid, regular season special in his first playoff.
And he also got that arrogance, confidence that good offensive players need to have.
Not cocky.
That is a quality that all great offensive players need. And the second he got in the NHL, he's like, you know what? I'm good. I know I'm good, and I'm going to show you how good I am. And he did it without rubbing him the wrong way. He's just got that belief in himself, as he should.
And he has showed us. Up next at number 37, Teach Me How to Dougie. Teach us why Dougie Hamilton is so high up on this list.
Well, if you want a defenseman that can impact the game in all areas of the ice, defensively, offensively, that's what Dougie Hamilton can do. And that's what he did last year. And I think before he was injured last season, he absolutely would have been a Norris Trophy finalist. That's the kind of level he's playing at. You look at his underlying numbers, and I know Carolina players, a lot of them have good ones, but, you know, his shot shares, his scoring chances, his expected goals against all are through the roof. And the way that he skates, another big guy who gets up the ice really well and helps support the play. I just, you know, I think it's taken a while for Dougie Hamilton to find the right system, the right fit, the right confidence, to really let his skill shine. And he's found that now in Carolina. He's really become one of the best defensemen in the league.
You know, I was going to say the same thing. I think he's found a home in Carolina. And, you know, he was drafted by the Boston Bruins. He was a high draft pick. He's a little bit of a different bird as a player, as a hockey guy, so to speak. And I think that, you know, in Boston, there was some, you know, maybe didn't fit in as naturally maybe as some of the other guys. Goes to Calgary. You know, they've had some guys come in and out of there. But he goes to Carolina, and I think he's matured into a different kind of guy off the ice a little bit, a player on the ice, and I think he's just taken off. Because he always had the natural skills. He wouldn't have been drafted as high in the first round as he was if he didn't have those skills. But I think he's found that home, and his game has really flourished.
And I'll say this. I like different people on my team. I want different people. I don't want everyone to do the same thing every game. I don't want everyone to agree the same, talk the same, feel the same. I want guys who are comfortable enough to do their own thing, be their own person, and I think we should applaud Dougie Hamilton and not necessarily criticize him for somehow not being part of a team or good in the room. I think, you know what, I want a guy who wants to go to see a play or go to a museum or read a book or do something different. And he's like that. He's a bright guy off the ice. He's a bright player on the ice. And he had a great year last year.
But you know, Johnny, from being in those rooms, how that the politics of the dressing room can make it difficult for someone who kind of rolls to their own drummer, so to speak. But I think as time has gone on, he's kind of figured things out, and he's emerged, as you point out, when he's healthy and playing well, one of the top defensemen in the game.
Kyle Connor, Connor Hellebuck. So we got a couple of Connors there and a couple of Jets. Let's start off with the goaltender, our first goalie on our top 50 countdown. Certainly not our last, but Connor Hellebuck deserving of his first Vezina coming this past season.
Yeah, you know, the goalies are tricky to kind of move into the list, right? Because they're obviously very important for teams try to find a share of its defense in the offseason. And he was just super, I thought, Johnny. He was faced with so many really high-danger chances.
That's it.
And he was able to come up with the save time and time again to keep the Jets in games and to get them, you know, up the standings.
If you watch the Jets play, you think, well, they have all those talented forwards. You know, how good did he have to be? You look at his numbers there; they're really good. But high danger chances against, shots against, expected goals against, his were all through the roof, and he had to play so well every night to give the Jets a chance to gain points. And that kind of pressure, that kind of load that he had to carry, and was willing to do it, capable of doing it, he absolutely deserved the Vezina. He was by far, for the work he was required to do, what he was asked to do, he was the reason the Jets, you know, had any success last year. So I think it's a heavy burden to carry for a goaltender, knowing that if you're not excellent, your team will lose.
Yeah, no question about it. And like, for me, his career over the last 3 years has been pretty interesting. I thought 3 years ago, he was terrific. The middle year, I thought he was a little leaky. He wasn't quite as good. And then last year, when the Jets really needed him because of all those defensemen that they lost, he really stood up and played very well.
What's interesting is that after that tough year, he went back and revamped how his body moved in this crease. I can't get into the biomechanics of it, but it's something to do with his core twisting along with his lower body, along tracking with his head. But a player who's in the NHL, who's already very good, recognizing I need to kind of completely change how I do this, and he did it with great success.
How do you guys weigh the weight of a goaltender in this countdown? Because we have him at 36. If you were doing your own list, do you weigh goalies a little higher, and would you have him higher on this list?
See, you know, for me, what I would do is I would look at the goaltenders first and determine which of those goaltenders would be on my list. And then I would set them aside, and I would go back and do the list, and then try to place them in that 50 where I thought they were be most appropriate. But it's very difficult for me, John, I don't know how you feel about it when you're putting a list together, to try to really compare the goaltender with the defenseman or the center or the winger, just because we know their value. They're always the most important guy in the game.
Have a good goalie
you know, you need good goaltending. So that's what I would do personally, is I would set aside the goaltenders, pick the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 goaltenders that I felt should be on the list. Then I would go back, make the list, and then I would try to slot them where I thought they would be appropriate. But it's not an easy thing to do, and I give our researchers and our producers and the people that voted on this list, I give them credit for that, because that is a difficult thing, because the position is so unique and so different, and yet so vital.
Yeah, so important. I think the biggest thing for me would be, could I replace this goalie with somebody else in the league and get something similar? And in Connor Hellebuck's case, you could not.
Right.
Because the team wasn't good in front of him. He was great. But you can't get swayed by he wins a lot, has a good goals against, has a good save percentage, because I could probably plunk a dozen goalies onto that team, into that situation. What does his backup do? And kind of weigh those kind of metrics to think, you know, how uniquely good is that goalie, or is it kind of a team-based success stat?
All right, we'll stay with the Winnipeg Jets theme. And maybe some of these guys cannibalize each other because they have so many of them. Kyle Connor comes in at number 35 for us. Maybe a guy who gets lost to the national spotlight just because they have some of those other names like Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele up there.
Well, he shouldn't. I mean, when you're going to score at a 45, close to 50-goal pace, I don't care who you're playing with, you're doing something right. And Kyle Connor, we're talking about it really since his freshman year in college, where he put up ridiculous numbers. And you could tell when you put up 70-plus points in college as a freshman, that guy has offensive skills that will translate. And that has proven out to be correct. He is a great straight-line scorer. Off the rush, when he gets a skate into it, the puck off his stick and has to beat a goaltender, whether it's with a move or with a shot, he can do it. And when he first got in the NHL, EJ, I watched him play, and I'm like, this guy can play for 10 years. If he plays with offensive players, and you may want more defensively, he will score 25 or 30 goals minimum every year. He just has that knack, those skills. And he kind of, playing along with Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele, for much of the year really showed how good offensively he could be.
And we've seen the numbers just go up with each of the last 3 years. We just showed the statistics, right? 31 goals, 34 goals, 38 goals in a season that was shorted.
45.
That's right. So he probably would have been up in the 40s. And, you know, I think there's a chance for him to challenge as be a 50-goal guy at some point down the road. He's got those kind of skills, and he plays, to your point, with really good players offensively that can help him. But I agree. I go back to that year at Michigan as a freshman there. And, I mean, freshmen just don't put up 70 points in college hockey. I mean, seniors don't necessarily put up 70 points. And then not win the Hobie Baker. Jimmy Vesey won it that year. He was a 4-year guy at Harvard. I think they paid some respect, the voters, to that 4-year career. But in the end, you're voting on the best player in a particular year. It was pretty clear to me that Kyle Connor was that guy. He's not someone that's looking for the spotlight. No. But he looks for it with the way he plays, and he'll keep getting it because of that, because he's such a great goal scorer.
Yeah, constant and consistent. 3 full seasons in the NHL, over 30 goals in all 3 of those, and maybe some of the best hair. So cracks the top 5 in our all-flow team. Number 34, all hail Cale Makar. We talked earlier about the Hobie Baker Award. This guy wins the Hobie, comes into the NHL, makes an immediate impact in the playoffs, and then the next year he wins the Calder. What more can you say about this youngster?
What more do you need to see? I mean, really, he's come into the league and taken the league by storm with his maturity, in his demeanor, in the way that he plays. He just seems like a guy who's totally at ease with who he is as a player and how to play in the NHL. And I watch him play, and when you watch him, his maybe greatest skill is his skating ability. I'm not saying something he's good at a lot of different things, but his ability to change directions. And as a forward trying to cover him, you think you angle him, you're taking him one way, and you work to close off space there, and he goes the other way, and he's willing to do it in high leverage places, on the blue line, one-on-one, and not many guys are doing that. And so, EJ, what happens is you get burnt once, you get burnt twice, eventually you start giving him more space because you get scared to cover him. And he does it so effortlessly. He darts his feet quickly one way, slams on the brake, somebody flies right by, and then he makes a play. His skating ability, to me, is something that's incredible. And then that goes along with his offensive skills. And you watch this highlight pack, EJ, watch all the different kinds of shots. You got one-timers, you got wristers, you got snapshots, and he can do them all effectively.
You know, he reminds me a little bit in his shiftiness of a Sergei Zubov, who I remember in Dallas.
Right.
He's a right shot guy. But
almost more explosive.
He's
like
more dynamic, more explosive, but similar.
Yes.
And, you know, that would be
I hated playing against Zubov.
Yeah, because he can make you look bad,
He did.
Because
he
just was patient, and he can do things. I think you're right. There's more explosiveness with Makar, and you can see the numbers there. The thing I think that benefited really Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, both really great young defensemen, is they both took that extra time to develop in college. They both had 2 seasons of college hockey. The Cale Makar that I saw at the draft and the Cale Makar that entered the National Hockey League were 2 different people, because Cale Makar was a bigger, stronger person.
Physically more mature,
and the same, and Quinn Hughes is not the biggest guy in the world, but he was also bigger, stronger, more ready to thrive instead of just survive. So I think that helped Cale Makar. And boy, he's a unique talent.
Yeah, and Cale Makar just spelling that miss that somehow defensemen need a year, 2, 3, 4.
Nope.
No 300 games to figure out how good he's going to be.
No. We need like national championship game next night. Stanley Cup playoff game.
Banging a stick on the ice for Nate McKinnon. Give me the puck.
Give him a beaver tail. I want it. So he's incredible to watch, and just physically so tough to cover because he's such a great skater.
And fits that theme of what we've seen over the last couple of shows of some of these defensemen cracking our top 50. 12 defensemen, 5 of those each under the age of 23. He's just 22.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more of those things as we move forward. This group of young defensemen, boy, there's so many skilled young defensemen.
And they're fearless.
Impact.
They're fearless.
Exactly.
It used to be you had to step in, figure out how to play, get the refs on your side, get the veterans on your side, figure out how to hook and cross-check and cheat. Yeah. Now they're like, no, I got this. They step in, they play their game. And because the game is so based on skating, generally speaking, younger players, younger legs, fresh legs, and they just come in and say, you know what, we know who we are. Coach empowers us to play, and they go out and play great.
Yeah. Come in, don't make a mistake. Not the case anymore. Take the reins off and let the thoroughbred run. This next guy, not a young buck, at the age of 34, Blake Wheeler, though, cracking our top 50.
Yeah, Blake Wheeler has been a really good player in this league for a while now. He's really been an impact player for the Winnipeg Jets. He's been a leader there. I think he's had the benefit of playing alongside some really talented players. He is amongst that group of talented players. A little bit of a drop off of the numbers this year. Because of that, when we talk about a list for right now, I probably wouldn't have had him in the early 30s on my list. I might have him down the line. But he's one of those guys, again, that can help you win, that's devoted to details and all the little things that a team needs to be successful. Blake Wheeler tries to bring to the table.
Well, he produces points. And one thing I like about Blake Wheeler that's unique is that as a right shot, he quarterbacks a really good power play on his strong side. And that's not easy to do. You think of guys on their off wings, Nick Backstrom having lots of options. So his shoulders are close to the point man, and yet he's able to create angles to everyone he wants. He's a really, really good passer, underrated skater. And as you mentioned, I have a lot of respect for Blake Wheeler and how he's grown as a leader.
Yeah.
On the ice, off the ice. He's willing to take himself off Mark Scheifele's line and say, okay, we need help at center. I'll go play center. I understand I'm not going to score as much. I'm not going to get the same kind of points. But if it's what the team needs to do to be more successful, I'm going to do it. He really has embraced being the leader of that team, that city in Winnipeg, and representing them and saying, you know what, we got a good thing going here.
Yeah, it's such an interesting career that he's had because he was a 5th overall pick.
I think I was on Arizona.
You were on. You probably were.
Like
you probably were.
2005.
And he stayed his time in college at Minnesota.
I remember watching that draft and I was like, who is this guy?
That's
Never
right.
heard of him.
And then he ended up going to Boston for a while, moved to Atlanta. Atlanta goes to Winnipeg, and to your point, he has really become really one of the faces, if not the face of that franchise over the years.
Yeah, and consistent, too. You mentioned putting up the points. One of 4 players in the NHL over the last 7 years to put up 60 or more points. Some of those names, Patrick Kane, Ovechkin, John Tavares. So maybe just because he plays in Winnipeg and plays with so many of those other guys that he maybe doesn't get the limelight like some of those other superstars we talked about.
When he gets around them, when you see him internationally, when you see him around All-Star games, he belongs, and he knows it, and so do the other players. I think the other players in the league have a lot of respect for Blake Wheeler and how good he is. Big, rangy guy. Skates exceptionally well.
You mentioned that. Deceptive speed, though, right?
He's massive. His skates are massive. He must have size 14 feet. He's ridiculously, but he can pick him up and put him down and really get him going.
32-31 each. We'll start with you and Seth Jones. When this guy's on the ice, he makes an impact, and he was on the ice a lot in that first round. 5 overtime games set an NHL record for most time on ice in a single playoff game, 65 minutes and 6 seconds.
Yeah.
That's big time.
He's a difference maker. And, for me, a lot of times we throw around that phrase, a guy is hard to play against, right? And it could be hard to play against for a number of reasons. And with Seth Jones, for me, he's hard to play against because he is so long and so athletic, and he uses his stick to defend so well. We're going to take a look at just a couple of plays where you think, Johnny, like you played in this league, you think you're around a guy, you think you're going to be able to make a play, and then the stick is so good, they just easily, it looks so easy, they break it up and they go the other way.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, like the circumference with which you have to complete your move gets so big because his reach and his stick is so active. You think you're by him, you think you have a step, and all of a sudden, no, you have to be like 6 feet past him before you're actually in the clear. And you see how good he is at breaking up plays with us. Sometimes I wonder, though, EJ, because he's such a good skater and such a good athlete, he doesn't close gaps quite as well as he has to because he relies on his stick and because it can be really quite effective at knocking pucks down and breaking up plays. I think for him to get to that next level, I still think his defensive zone game can get better. He has all the tools.
Yeah, no question.
You don't play 65 minutes a game unless you can skate, and he can certainly do that.
And he can provide some offense. You see him there, too.
That part is fine.
He can rip it. And for a big man, too, he is so agile and good on his skates. Here he finds that spot, and he's able to come down on his stick a little bit and really be accurate with the shot right there. And we can remember this against the Maple Leafs in the postseason. A great shot through traffic, found its way in. So he is someone that, as I said, hard to play against, but helps the Columbus Blue Jackets in every single aspect of the game. And to me, he's one of those guys that really drives winning again, which would be a reason why he'd be high on the list.
Coaches love players that they can play in every situation. We're down a goal, Jonesy. We're up a goal, Jonesy. We're going to overtime. We're on the power play. We're on the penalty kill.
Exactly.
Yep.
5th overtime, Jonesy.
Yeah. Again, just stay out there. So,
and you can trust him,
and
right, in those
you know
situations.
What you're going to get.
Exactly.
He tries to be as reliable as he
Future
can
Norris Trophy winner, in your opinion, multiple times?
I think he can win one. I mean, I think it's just hard right now when we think of all these really talented young defensemen in the league.
Yeah.
We can make that statement
coming.
about 7 or 8 young players. So there's only one award each year, but I think he's got a chance to win one at some point.
I still think he's got to get better defensively.
Wow.
To win a Norris.
Didn't stop,
the very best.
It didn't stop Erik Karlsson.
Right.
No,
but he was really good.
He's not as good as Erik Karlsson offensively, but we digress.
Still a young guy at the age of 26.
Yeah, I take him on my team any day.
Absolutely, especially this next guy coming in at number 31, Ryan O'Reilly. The year of 2019 wins the Selke, the Conn Smythe, his first Stanley Cup. 2020, down year for a lot of people globally, not Ryan O'Reilly. It really didn't tail off.
No, I mean, he has become a picture of consistency in how he plays the game, what he does for his team, and how effective he is at shutting down other players. You think about when he went up in the playoffs and he went up against Elias Pettersson, who had just lit the world on fire in the return to play. And when he got up against Ryan O'Reilly, he got nothing. And that is a testament to O'Reilly, a lot of criticism of Pettersson. And it's amazing that, you know, a guy who does as much winning and as good as he is and can produce points, he is so focused on just taking care of the team. Doing whatever he has to do, whether it's face-offs, killing penalties. And to think at one point, you know, he was criticized in Buffalo for being so disheartened by losing, and now we celebrate that attitude, which has turned him into one of the best winners in the league.
You know, it's the details for Ryan O'Reilly. He cares about all the little details of the game, from his equipment to, you know, getting prepared for the game, and then all those details in the game. And I continue to go back to that phrase, drives winning. This is someone that can really, he helps you win, because those are the little things. You add up all those little details over the course of 60 minutes, and at the end of the day, you've got an excellent chance to win, and he's proven that throughout his career.
And you know what details require? Work.
Yeah.
and that he's willing to do the work away from the puck. And that's not always the case. Tired, positioning, will, and he never falls victim to any of those things. He always does the work to be in the right spot, to make the right play.
And as you pointed out to me a couple of years ago, he's got the unique stick blade.
It's got like a curve on it.
A little hook at the very end.
It's like broken.
At the very end.
This, like a little hook on it.
Looking,
And again, that's a detail for him that works for him.
He thinks he can play the puck in by his feet a little bit better with one hand. And he can.
Yeah. Interesting on the ice and off the ice, because his workout regimen is a little off par too.
Yeah,
right?
all of it.
Unique stuff.
All of it, and then you watch at the end, stuff with his dad, some crazy stick handling drills. You watch him at the end of practice, and you know he's a seasoned veteran now. He doesn't have to spend 30 minutes at the end of practice working on little drills, but he gets his little stuff going, and inevitably everyone just, where's Ryan? And everyone starts going over to him. And all of a sudden, he's got 6 guys doing the same drills, which don't even make sense to some guys.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Working for him, I'm going to try to do it as well. So he's become a real leader in that team. Still one of the best teams in the league.
One of the top players in the NHL, and a big reason why he cracks our top 50 at number 31.